Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Whitton and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chats. Marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are. If you think it's Get Rich Quick, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong life for you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well. Hey, good morning, everyone. Hopefully doing well. Hopefully you had a good weekend. Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats. Good to see you. Jeff's already up and at it. The early bird catches the worm, they say, Jeff. Hope you're well, buddy. Good to see you on, folks. For those who don't know, Jason Whitton's my name. Most of you know that, though. And if you don't, welcome along. Welcome to the show. A little conversation, a little chat in the mornings. We have a bit of coffee, talk about the world of property investing. That's the idea of staying on track over a period of time. Takes time to build a property portfolio, folks. Most of you know we've got a couple of sayings around here. Buy well, don't sell. Buy a great property. Buy multiple great properties, actually. Keep them and don't sell them, because most people sell too early in this game. And if you do sell, then you're selling for a reason, which is usually strategic. This is the newer version of this conversation, which is, transforming your wealth from one place to another in a way to make it efficient. But that's not what today's about. We'll talk about something else today. Hey, morning, Brad. Good to see you, mate. Fabulous to have you here. As always, Luke's in the house as well. Morning, Luke. Thanks for joining today, folks. Fantastic to have the regulars on. And if you're new, let us know in the chat as well. Give us a shout out, say hello, and let us know where you are in this country. Maybe you're coming in from a different place around the world. We do have a few people dialing in from different places around the world, but good to have whoever you are, wherever you are, on the show this morning. Hey, listen, I thought we might talk about adding income value to our properties. Often we build our property portfolios, we purchase them, and the kind of, the favorite child, of property. Hey, good morning, Siva. Great to have you here. Good to see you joining. Hey, the favorite child, the most popular thing to talk about when it comes to property or real estate is the capital growth, the value of your properties, isn't it? Hey, Alison, good morning. Good to have you on as well. Thanks for joining us. When you talk about, my property went up in value, my property went up in value, but often the sort of the underrated star of owning an asset is the income, right? The income of our properties, the income off our portfolio, and talking about that, because often you can't live off your capital growth on your property, most people realize quite late in their investing career that they end up with a lot of wealth they can't access and can't do much with when your properties go up in value unless you're structured correctly. I'm going to talk about that tonight at mentoring, at our coaching and mentoring program tonight. That's the conversation of debt mastery this evening. But, if your properties go up in value, then how do you get access to some of that wealth? What can you do? I've met a lot of people who are sort of wealthy on paper, but, can't shout me a coffee. I paid my home off, but, I'm cash flow poor, asset rich, cash flow poor. Morning, Margaret. How are you? Now, some of the things that I like the idea of is adding value in situ, highest and best use of a bit of real estate. Now, it's pretty easy to understand the highest and best use conversation when it comes to adding value. You've got an older property, you renovate it, and the value goes up. But I want to talk about the idea of highest and best use of highest and best income return on your existing properties. How can we accelerate your income on properties that you own or you're going to own in the future? So let's talk about that this morning. So put it in the chat for me. What are the types of things that we can do to our properties that we can increase our income on the properties? Now, there's sort of three major kind of versions of the world. Hey, morning, Sonia. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. There's three major versions of the world when it comes to adding income to our properties, increasing the income, accelerating the income on our properties. There's three major versions of the world, and there's probably a bunch of different styles of it, but chuck it in the chat for me. What are the things that we can do to increase our income, folks? Put that in the chat for me as we're chatting along this morning. Now, the easy one, the low-hanging fruit for me, folks, is adding furniture to your property and letting it out, right? Now, tell you a little story. I've got a couple of properties that I've just added some pretty good furniture packages to. So think about this. You own a property, maybe 5 or 10 years go by. The property's in a good location. Usually furnishing properties and adding some rental income to furnished properties works better in locations where there's a little bit more turnover in rentals. Usually apartments work really well. So I'll give you an example of a couple of my apartments that I've done. You own a property, it goes up in value. You want to sort of access the equity, or you want to increase its income. You get some equity and you buy a furniture pack. Now, I've just done 2 furniture packages up in Brisbane. One added $300 a week rent, folks. $300 extra on my property because I added a $30,000 furniture package, which is pretty significant when you think about it. The amount of rent that you can get out of that. One of those properties now rents for $1,850 a week. $1,850 a week, folks. Like, just do the math on that. It's $70,000 a year just from one property with a rental package, a furniture pack in that property. Now, what's another way you can add extra income to your property when it comes to that world? Well, you can no, that one's actually permanent rental, Sonia. It's permanent, like mind-blowing. It's I've got a 2-bedder and a 4-bedder up in Brisbane, and I've put furniture packages in both of them, and they've gone really, really well. And it's long-term, not holiday rent. But that's the next version of the world, right? You can rent a property, not long-term, like not 12 months, but you can rent a property short-term. You can holiday let it. You could student let it, because students often rent properties like quarter to quarter or term to term. You can Airbnb. those sorts of things. So interesting one. I was just looking, let's say in Airbnb. Now, there's some challenges with Airbnb and short-term letting at the moment because there's not a national legislation on Airbnb, and sort of local councils, then state governments, then, there's you've got the buildings that often the properties are in, you've got the local councils, and then you've got the state governments, all kind of making up their own versions of the world, and no real sort of national legislation for it. So it's a little bit tricky for a few people, but Airbnb or short-term letting works quite nicely. What's the number one state, folks, on average? Tell me in the chat, what's the number one state for Airbnb and short-term letting at the moment? And maybe the locations. I don't know if anyone knows this one. I was reading an interesting industry article the other day. Does anyone know? Put it in the chat for me. What's the number one state out of the, I don't know, there's some territories and states, but I'll give you a tip. It's not one of the territories. So what's the number one state in Australia for Airbnb income on average? Does anyone know? Put it in the chat if you do, because if you're having a little look, Queensland, Margaret's going Queensland. You'd think so, wouldn't you, Margaret? Well, according to this article I read the other day, that South Australia, the average price per night, $314. Average yearly Airbnb income. There you go. South Australia doing well. Maybe, and you'll see. Where do you think the average income? Where do you think the average income? Where do you think the location of those incomes in South Australia is? It's all in one place. And if you know South Australia well, there's only one reason to visit South Australia, isn't there? Sorry, South Australians. There you go. So Vino said, hey, Steve, there you go. What do you mean by furniture? Living room, bedroom, for example. Yeah, mate, the whole kit and caboodle, Steve. Everything. So beds, linen, towels, fridge, microwave, vacuum cleaner, the lot, mate, the lot. You just walk it. You literally walk in with your bag and you're in. There you go. Yeah, Victoria's at the bottom. Yeah, Luke, I think Victoria. Now, listen, this is an interesting one, right? I think Victoria's in all sorts for a year or two. But, Melbourne now is the cheapest place to buy a house in Australia. Folks, seriously. Now, the rental yield's quite good, and it's the cheapest place to buy a house. It'll come good. And it goes in cycles. I mean, listen, this is not our first rodeo, is it, folks? There you go. Margaret reckons Adelaide. Well, Margaret, what's good about South Australia? What's the only good thing about South Australia? Anyway, I'm hamming it up, South Australians, so don't get all offended. What's the only place really you'd go and visit when you go to South Australia? Someone put it in the chat. That's what I reckon. South Australia. Yeah. All right. Yes, Sonia, nailed it. There you go. It's in the Barossa Valley, folks. Yeah, the Barossa, exactly. Yep, red wine. Yep, Sonia goes, yep, wine. Yep, that's right, Luke. Red wine. Usually no cyclone. Hey, you might be right there, Sonia. No cyclones. Maybe Adelaide's weather will come good. Anyway, there you go. It's an interesting one, right? It's an interesting one in the Barossa. All right, so that's interesting. So you can furnish your properties, put furniture in there, make it easy just for people to walk in and walk out, and charge a premium. You can shorten the letting time frame, either daily, weekly, monthly, 3 monthly, and that's you got to get that right at the moment as you go along, and you got to understand the sort of the ebb and flow of things as you go. And what's the third piece of this puzzle, folks? Like, you can do some simple things, which is, put some furniture in. You can change the letting style. And what's the third one? You can add some value, right? So highest and best use, add value. And this is like a renovation, an extra bedroom, an extra bathroom,
A granny flat, those ones are a lot more difficult to add income value to as you go along. And probably a fourth one I would add in there now, just on the fly, is if your equity's in that property and there's nothing you can do with that property, then I would use the equity from that property and invest it in another investment. I do this all the time. I take 100 grand, 200 grand out of one of the investment properties that I've got. It is at its highest and best use. It's renovated. It's got, furniture in it if I need to put the furniture in. So it's earning as high as it can. So I've got some equity. So I'll take some equity out of that. I'll take that equity and put it in another investment. I might get 10 or 15% on that other investment. And the combination of that 10 or 15% plus the rental now, maybe it doubles the net in my pocket income on that property as well. So there you go. Anyway, hopefully that made sense today. A quick conversation about what can you do to accelerate the income on your properties. You can do something in situ, you can add some value, or you can maybe use some of that equity and accelerate it in another way. All right, folks. Well, that's it. Maybe a short and sweet one today. Short and sweet Wealth Coffee Chat. As always, let me know in the chat if you've got any questions. I'm always happy to answer them, and maybe do a Wealth Coffee Chat on something if it's on your mind. Yes, always, Margaret. Always. And in my my conversation, like buy well, don't sell. Well, sometimes where you start with your investments might not be where you want to end up with your investments. You start where you can afford. Right now, I'm doing a pretty significant upgrade across my portfolio. I have sold some properties, some smaller, older ones, and I've upgraded into some more significant, newer ones. For me, that sort of next stage of my portfolio is that transition to, a different style of property that I can afford now compared to when I first started. There you go. Margaret, good question. All right, that's it from me, folks. Yes, indeed, Sonia. See you tonight. Looking forward to it. I'm going to be doing a bit of a deep dive into debt mastery. Some of it I'm sure you will know, and some of it maybe you don't. So make sure you come along. Great to have you here, folks. And let's see what happens there. All right, that's it from me, folks. Thanks, Margaret. Thanks, team. Adios. See you tonight. Bye for now.
Episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcasts, folks, as well as our other podcasts from the 6